This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, let's rock and roll, baby. Let's talk a little Kansas. You know, I love talking Kansas, and obviously I love talking to Ronnie Platt. Love watching him jam. Ronnie, how you doing, my man? How you feeling?
Feeling great, man. Let me tell you, the start of this year for the band has just been off the charts. All the shows have been sold out. The audiences have been great. The theaters have been great. I mean, if it was any better, I would have to squeegee myself off.
But I think, you know, here's the thing, Ronnie. One of the beautiful things that you guys have been able to do is that you still sound great. And, you know, when you take over for Steve Walsh, that's a scary moment for any band because you don't know what. And yeah. Well, personally for you, there's a ton of pressure. But as fans, like for me, for everybody else, for the band members, nobody really knows what direction the band's going to go in at that moment. And you guys have gone. I mean, I love Prelude and Implicit, dude. I think it's a phenomenal freaking album. Also, still making great music. But I think that that's what translates when you go to the concerts. As you know, I always go when you guys come down here to South Florida. I always go see you guys.
Thank you.
And you still sound phenomenal, dude. And I think that that's where you're not getting cheated as a Kansas fan. You're hearing true Kansas, which is awesome.
Right. And that, you know, you really got to throw the award there to Rich and Phil, you know, because they've really been particular about who joins the band. You know, are they going to fit in with that Kansas flavor? Do they have well, of course you got to have the chops in this band, or I mean, this music is demanding, but to also have that stage presence. And I mean, you just saw us, and I mean, you just tell that there's a gel between all of us now. I mean, with the latest edition of Joe, oh my God, what an animal that guy is on the violin. You know, just a great player and great stage presence, great showman. Same thing with Tom. I mean, we call Tom the boy with the golden resume. You know that because he was Meatloaf's keyboard player. He was Debbie Harry's keyboard player. Toured with Yes. You're no slouch if you're touring with Yes, right? So
you're playing Rick Wakeman. Yeah, you're pretty good.
You kidding? Are you kidding? Playing Rick Wakeman, Patrick Moraz. Oh my God, Tony Kaye. I mean, great players. You know, so you know it's something how since Joe has joined the band, and you know there's just a collective cohesiveness with us now. We're really on that autopilot when it comes to the show. You know, we start the show and it just flows now, and we're really starting to, you know, play off each other very well, and it's just a great mix.
And I'm sure other Kansas fans are just like me. You go see the band, you freaking love them, and you say, I'm coming back, and I'm coming back. And I think that that's why it's kind of in the pilot, because you know what you're getting, and you're getting exceptional music. And by the way, if you got to step into the drums for Phil, you know what I mean? Or Bobby and the violin, you know, and you had to do for, like, that's, brother, when you step in any position in Kansas, holy shit, you're filling some shoes. You know what I'm saying? That's
all across the board. Across the board.
Yes.
I mean, just there's just that upper echelon of musicianship that it takes to play Kansas stuff. I mean, you know, it's funny the way you know, Billy announces when Phil comes and joins us on stage, and Billy announces Song for America. You know, we're now going to play the longest and most difficult song we're going to play of the evening. You know, I wonder what it's like to hear that from a common ear, because being a musician, that song, you just start dissecting it, and there's so many parts and so many notes, and every position is doing just a, a incredible assortment of notes and music,
Yeah, you
and
do it and
it's
fills,
really intense.
right?
I'm sorry.
I said everybody's doing music and fills at the same time, right?
Right. How about it? But Orlando, I got to tell you, probably the nicest compliment I ever hear, and I hear it, like in the background or when people are leaving, or when we're in after show with guests, is when I hear people say, "Wow, I wasn't expecting it to be that good." To me, that's the ultimate compliment, because if you're coming to see Kansas, you have pretty high expectations,
Very.
and to hear a compliment like that, it's really flattering.
Yeah. I mean, well, listen, prog rock is not easy, period. End of
No,
story. Give a shit if you're playing Yes. I don't care if you're playing ELP, whatever it is. There's a lot of it's not an easy genre of music to play, because it's kind of a mix of a couple of different genres inside of it, and so
right.
it's really a challenge overall, and that's why it takes a special
Yeah.
musician. And by the way, you guys have done a glorious job of bringing guys in that have been able to keep it.
Right.
The streamlining it has been it's been, there has been no issues. It's been just so smooth. And let me tell you something. Here's another thing that I'm very impressed. I told you about this the other night when we were talking. Your voice, okay? It's funny. I'm watching that Joni Mitchell is about to. She hasn't performed in 24 years, and she's going to put
Wow.
together a show out in the Hollywood Bowl, right? And it's going to be called the Joni Jam and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you know who she is. She's a freaking legend, right?
So sure.
Yeah. And then I hear about Ozzy. He wants to do 2 more shows, and he's going to do them over in England. And I forgot his hometown where it is, but it's only 2 shows because he obviously his health. But Sharon talks about how his voice still sounds great and how he's still taking lessons. So, and this is, I know it's a long question, but Joni hasn't sung in 24 years, so she's got to be doing something to kind of keep her voice going. Ozzy, obviously, a poor man, has had all these physical issues and he can't overcome them, but he's keeping his voice in shape. At the end of Point of No Return, you have a nice little finish at the end with your voice, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm not showboating too much there, am I?
Yeah, no, but dude, it sounds fucking great, dude. I loved it. Okay. And that's what I asked you what do you do to keep your voice sounding so freaking good, dude? Because you sound great, man.
Oof.
You're really
Thank you so much. It's something. I think it's a life of clean living, for one. I never drank, never did a drug. God, am I boring? Why am I suddenly depressed? Uh, but sleep is a big factor, and of course, sometimes that's hard to come by on the road. But I think it's just taking care of myself and really being aware of my voice all the time, singing every day. But when I come home, I really try to keep my mouth shut. After a couple shows, when I come home, to give my voice a chance to recoup. I think one of the things that has really hurt a lot of singers from back in the day is they toured relentlessly, never giving themselves a break. And if you're sick, if you have a cold or you have the flu or something, right, just when you have to sing and you're under the weather, it taxes your voice 10 times more than you already are. And then
right.
it extends that recovery time much, much longer. So you have to really be careful. And I've just been so lucky in the 10 years that I've been with Kansas now, that I've been able to really take advantage of the breaks and let my voice recoup. Slowly get the motor back up and running, and it's really mental preparation too. And then, of course, the adrenaline I have before the show just kicks up in me, and keeping that high energy really has kept my voice going. So it's worked for me so far.
Yeah, no, dude, you sound absolutely phenomenal. And Ronnie Platt, of course, joining us from Kansas. And make sure you catch them here on their tour, their 50th anniversary tour. When we talk about the set list, I thought you guys, that's one of the things that I loved about this concert. There were songs I hadn't heard in forever. As I told you,
Right.
I hadn't been to a Kansas concert where you did 2 Elefante songs in one freaking show since the
Yeah.
Elefante days. Okay, so
Right.
I haven't seen
Right.
that since the Elefante days. And I told Richard, I said, fighting fire with fire, that gung 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 gung, that riff, that I love that freaking riff from that song.
What a great live tune, right? I mean, that tune just cries to be played live.
Yes. And so, how was the conversation of coming up with what songs do we perform? Because your catalog is ridiculous. Okay. And so, it's like one of those deals, like, how do you settle in on it? How was those conversations?
Well, that's when you have a leader, you have your CEO, and he has the final say. Yeah, like we were talking the other night, I can, with the exception of Wayward Son, Point, Dust, maybe one or two others, I can write an entire show of songs we haven't performed yet that I've been in the band. So, boy, it's tough because there's 6 of us, and we each want to play something. Orlando, I've been asking to play Windows since day one. Another Elefante song. Crazy. Away From You. I'd love to do Away From You. Just so many songs we haven't touched yet, but everybody makes their suggestions, and Phil has the final say. And I would not want to be in that position, because there's too many Kansas songs I want to play. Just the other day, I'm like, God, we got to bring Portrait back. I heard Portrait, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to bring that song back. Just it really is a tough thing to do, when you want to play 6 hours and you have to narrow it down to 2 hours, 15 minutes. Not a job I want to have. So I make my suggestions, and then let Phil have the final say.
If I remember correctly, Ronnie, you kind of reached out to Richard when Steve left the band, right? It was something along those lines, that you wanted to be considered band. So walk me through that experience of the performing for the band to prove to it in the competition of all it. And then when you got that job, what was going through your mind? Because you compete for it, and then it's like, okay, dude, now you're going to have to do it. Now you're going to have to get in front of Kansas fans.
Again, no pressure.
Their approval. You know what I'm saying? And that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Orlando, I really had an unfair advantage. Being a Kansas fan my entire life, and not just a fan, a diehard fan, that so many of my cover bands back in Chicago, we played Kansas songs, and not just only, Carry On and Point. I remember my band Chaser, that was together in the 80s. I mean, we played The Wall, we played Right Away, we played Windows. I mean, really some deep cut Kansas stuff. And I really did that my entire career because I was just such a big fan of the band. Then, of course, getting the job in Shooting Star and playing with Kansas. And we played the Moondance Festival up in Walker, Minnesota. And, it was pretty good. Orlando, the lineup just for this night was Shooting Star, Foghat, Kansas, Sheryl Crow,
Wow.
and Journey.
Wow.
That was the first night. Is that a crazy lineup?
That is a
So
phenomenal lineup, dude.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but I'm in Shooting Star. I'm fronting Shooting Star, and we're out there doing our set, and I happen to catch out of the corner of my eye. I look over to our monitor desk, and there's Rich Williams watching our set. And I'm like, wow, how freaking cool is that Rich Williams from Kansas, came out of his dressing room to watch Shooting Star, and even he admits that, seeing that back then, he kind of like remembered me and kind of like put me in his back pocket, but fast forward to when I got a text message from my friend Dina, a longtime friend, longtime fan who happens to be Dennis DeYoung's niece, knowing that I'm just a crazy Kansas fan. She texts me this, this message. Did you see this? And it was the advertisement of Steve announcing his retirement. And usually when you see stuff like that in the press, I know that they were in the middle of a tour, and I'm like, God, I wonder who got the job, who's going to take over for Steve. Because for them to announce that, you would automatically think that they've been working with someone for a while. And, nothing against my friends that live right to the west here. This isn't cheap. It's not cheap trick music,
Right.
This
Right.
This is pretty demanding stuff. It's not stuff that any musician's going to just walk in and, okay, this is in the key of A, let's take it. It's not that kind of music. So just on a crazy whim, I don't know what possessed me to do it, but Rich and I were friends on Facebook, and I sent Rich a message, and all I wrote was, Rich, Ronnie Platt from Shooting Star, give me some consideration. That's all I wrote. Send. Go do what I was doing, right? Very next day, come home from work. I was driving a truck at the time, beautiful 18-wheeler around the streets of Chicago. So I come home from work the very next day. Now, I sent that message off to Rich on Wednesday. Thursday, I come home from work. I'm about to walk out the door, and I'm like, I'm going to check my email before I leave. Here, there's a message from Rich Williams. If you get this within the next hour and a half, we're about to go on stage in Houston. Give me a call. And right there, I'm like shocked, I'm like, oh my God, Rich responded to me almost immediately. So of course, I call him up. Rich, Ronnie Platt from Shooting Star, what? We had a real nice conversation. He's like, hey, we're about to go on stage. We'd like to talk to you. Can Phil give you a call tomorrow? Absolutely. Talked to Phil on Friday. Real nice conversation, and asked if I'd be willing to fly to Atlanta to meet with him and Rich on Monday. Well, of course I would, and I mean, at this point, my adrenaline is just a million miles an hour. Can you imagine the things that's going through my head? I had some auditions for some very big bands previously that didn't come to fruition. So it kind of prepares yourself for a letdown, but you can't help but start to fantasize, So anyway, Monday, I fly to Atlanta and I meet with Phil and Rich in a hotel lobby, one of those big giant atrium rooms in an airport in a hotel around the airport. And I think we talked for 3.5 hours, somewhere in there. And like the first maybe 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, we talked business. And the rest of the time, we were just telling stories and cracking jokes, and it was like that initial feeling of, holy crap, I'm sitting with Rich Williams and Phil Ehart, with the possibility of being the lead singer. I mean, they made me so comfortable that nervousness left me almost immediately. It felt like I was sitting with a couple of buddies telling stories, and it just went so well. And we're walking out, and I'm going right back to my flight to fly back home. And it was so funny because Rich was walking about, I don't know, 10, 20 feet in front of Phil and I. And, Phil looks at me and he's like, well, that went really well, kind of like smirking, laughing. And it's like, but, I got to talk to Rich, and I'm like, I understand, so, I go home, and very next day I'm at work, and I'm at one of my stops, and I check my email, and email from Phil Leahart. Congratulations, you got the gig. The band is pumped.
But wait a minute. But it was just meetings. What? You didn't jam any Kansas songs with them. They didn't try you out.
They were extremely explicit about, you're not coming down to sing. We've seen you with Shooting Star. We've seen your YouTube stuff. We know you could sing your ass off. We're just flying down to meet with you to see if you're a good guy, see if you're going to fit with the rest of the guys in the band.
Wow.
That's really what they wanted to see. They've already viewed a ton of stuff of me singing.
So when you tried out for other bands, did you sing for them? Because I would figure that would be the norm, that they got to check you out and see if you fit even when they're jamming. I don't know. So was that normal? Is that how it's done?
No, it's not. It was not the normal protocol, so to say. The other really large band that I auditioned for, the keyboard player was here in Chicago, and I went in his studio, and he told me, learn this particular song. And I went to the studio, and I sang this song, and I'm in the recording booth, and I'm watching him in the control room, and a buddy of mine actually came with me, and I could see him at the desk. And as soon as I started singing, I saw him turn around to my buddy and go, holy crap, like, this guy's got pipes. And, I sang that song, and I went back into the control room, and he's like, do you know any other songs? And I'm like, are you kidding? I know this band's catalog pretty well.
What band is it? Come on, tell me. What band is it?
Okay, it was Foreigner.
Wow. So Lou had just left. Wow. So Lou had just left.
Right. And they were auditioning. I think at the time, Mick had pretty much made up his mind on Kelly. Mm-hmm. Kelly Hansen.
Yeah.
But I think he was really trying to see how many singers are out there and stuff. And at the time, Kelly on his portfolio, he was in a signed band. He had some modest record sales, but he was in a signed band. Had a pretty good resume. Whereas at that time, back in beginning of 2004, the only thing that really was on my resume was cover band singer from Chicago.
Right.
Right. So if I was sitting at the desk and I'm Mick Jones, I'd make the same decision.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Kelly,
Jeff,
good job. Kelly does a good job.
Oh my God, Kelly kills it.
Yeah,
Orlando, I said I'm in a very exclusive club. You've got Kelly fronting Foreigner. You've got Arnell fronting Journey. Tommy DiCarlo, who kills it, fronting Boston.
Yep.
There's
Todd doing Queensryche. He does an
right.
excellent job.
I mean, all of us should like start a union or something, because it's such an exclusive club. It really is. So, but it's just.
And by the way, doing Lou Gramm is near impossible, because there's only one voice that sounds like Lou Gramm, because that
Lou
voice
Gramm.
was just so distinctive. You know, and Kelly does, so he has some characteristics of Lou Gramm in his voice,
but it's still Kelly's voice. But
right,
he
but
still
it's
kills it.
right. He still kills it, but the problem is nobody can be Lou Gramm.
Right.
Nobody. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Just like you know, I'm a big fan of John Anderson.
Oh God.
I mean, it's there. It's such a unique characterization of the voice, just like Geddy Lee. No one's
Right.
going to do. No one does Geddy Lee except Geddy Lee. It's just not going to happen. I'm sure there's some great imitators out there, but you're not going to have that voice from that particular organic makeup of that person. It's just not going to happen. But it's so ironic that here I've auditioned for these other bands, and here I end up in the band that I've really been the biggest fan of my entire life. So, you know, the people talk about the fate thing, you know.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Boy, it really is pretty hard to contest that for me. It really is. And the proof is on YouTube, because you could go back to the 80s when I'm in my cover bands. You could see me singing all these Kansas songs from back in the 80s.
Right.
So it's ironic.
It's awesome. It's awesome. By the way, their tour will continue for you Floridians out there. Pensacola, February 2nd, Birmingham, Alabama, February 3rd, Richmond, Virginia, March 1st, Tyson, Virginia, March 2nd. So check it out. You can go to Kansas's website and check out the dates there. You can get some tickets, VIP packages, all that good stuff. Ronnie, before I let you go, I'm going to two more questions. One, what are any other big bands that you tried out for outside of Foreigner? Because I'm intrigued by that. I think that's so cool. I'm glad you got your shot, but what were the other ones that you tried for and it didn't work out?
The first one that taught me a lesson, that when I got the phone call, I was like, oh my God, I've made it. I've finally made it into a national act, was Survivor.
Wow. Oh, in between the change of the two guys, right? The original singer, and the second.
At the time, Jimmy Jameson had went out and started his own band and called it Survivor. And there's a little legal issue with that. And Frankie Sullivan, who owns the name Survivor, Jim Peterick, had left the band at that point. So we had, Frankie Sullivan Survivor and Jimmy Jameson Survivor. And Dave Beckler, the original singer from Survivor, was in Frankie Sullivan's Survivor and looking to retire or do other things, whatever the reason was why they were looking at me. And Frankie's brother Kevin was part of the management team. And he's like, we just got to get you down to rehearsal. As soon as you open your mouth, they're going to sign. They're going to want you. Trust me. And the thing is, that never happened. So it kind of really left the air out of my balloon, because I had such high hopes, and here it's a Chicago-based band. Been a fan of them forever. All that stuff is just right in my wheelhouse. So it taught me a lesson not to get too excited, because it's a gazillion to one chance that you're going to get the job. And here I get the job in Kansas. I mean, crazy.
Two things about Survivor that I got to add. One, very few people know that they switched singers. Very few people really. Okay.
Right.
Two, the two singers ended up sounding a lot alike. And
very
three,
much.
They have more hits than you will ever realize. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to the general public that's watching this. You don't realize how many hits Survivor has. You just think it's the two songs you heard in Rockies. Wrong.
Right.
whole bunch of hits. That's another thing I give Survivor credit. They change singers and they continue to have monster hits. And that was
right. And a lot of Orlando, a lot of people don't realize that Jim Peterick wrote almost all of 38 Specials' big hits.
Oh, wow. I did not know that either. Wow.
Oh my God. Hold On Loosely. You could check the record on that. I mean,
right.
Jim Peterick did a lot of writing of 38 Specials hits.
Okay. All right. That's
Rocking Into the Night.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
All Jim Peterick stuff.
Okay. I love
Caught Up in You. Caught Up in You. Written by Jim Peterick.
Wow. Okay. Did he write Teachers for the movie for Nick Nolte? Remember that song?
That I don't know.
Yeah. 38 Special wrote a song for the Nick Nolte movie Teachers that Ralph Macchio was in it. And it was actually kind of back in the day. Yeah. And there's a song called Teachers, and they wrote that song. 38 Special wrote it for that movie, actually. Check it out one day. If you run the video on YouTube, the highlights of the Nick Nolte movie will be inside of it, and Macchio and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, really? Well, as you can imagine, it's very rare that I get out of this room.
Which it looks phenomenal, by the way. Your new music.
Yeah,
great.
Nice room to have.
It looks phenomenal. All right, last question. Your favorite Kansas song to play and your favorite Shooting Star song to play, since those are the two bands I know you for. And for those of you that don't know out there, I'm a big Shooting Star guy. I actually like Shooting Stars. So I've always been a Shooting Star fan. I think I still have a concert shirt somewhere in one of my closets. I don't fit in the Shooting Star shirt because it's from the 80s, but I still have it. Yeah, it's gray and black, and it's the dude it's the dude that's a horse, whatever, and the bow and arrow or whatever. I remember the cover of it and everything. So, favorite Shooting Star. You know which one?
You know what the unfortunate thing is about Shooting Star?
What's that?
Is their name, when you search it, you're going to come across 500 links of the song Shooting Star by Bad Company before you see anything from the band. And that's really unfortunate because the band had so many great songs. I mean, Van and Gary were great songwriters. It's a shame that they didn't.
Underrated band, actually.
Totally underrated. But my two favorite songs to perform, obviously, Wayward Son, because you saw it. You were there.
Yes.
We start Wayward Son, and everybody in that audience is 20 years old again.
Yeah.
Is that great?
Yeah.
Or what? You know, that was great. And of course, with Shooting Star, Last Chance.
Oh man, so you picked my favorite song. God, I love Last Chance.
Oh my God, we played Last Chance, and same thing. If you were a Shooting Star fan, you waited that entire show to hear Last Chance, and it was always our encore.
Yeah, because there's
great tune.
There's so many different levels to Last Chance. That's the thing. It kind of changes, you know, the music changes. It takes you from one place to another, and then the solos in between with the drums and the keyboards.
Right.
And I love Last Chance. I think I have to listen to Last Chance at least once a month in my car. At least once
wow.
I'm on my way, and I gotta kick in Last Chance just because
it was so much fun for me, because we would set like a couple of timpanis up out in the audience, or somewhere really off stage, disconnected off stage. And when Steve started the drum solo, I would like run to the timpanis, and then the spotlight would come on the timpanis, and Steve and I would be just pounding back and forth, and it was so much fun. I mean, we did stretch it out maybe a few more minutes longer than we should have, but when you're having that kind of fun,
it's a freaking jam. So it's one of those that you can, in the middle of that keyboard piece, the keyboardist can just go off and do a little extra if he felt like it, and you guys could just keep the rhythm going a little bit. I'm sure that happened. You know what I mean? So I saw Shooting Star like 3 times down here in South Florida, like 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Opening up for Molly Hatchet. I saw them open up for Molly Hatchet in the Sportatorium.
This was back in the 80s then.
Yes, this is the 80s. Yeah, this is the early version of Shooting Star, the first few albums and stuff. I remember Stranger.
Okay, I got a little Shooting Star trivia for you.
I don't know if you know Stranger, but Stranger was a local Florida band out in the West Coast. And they were the opening act for Shooting Star in another concert that I saw also. Yeah, Stranger was kind of like an underground band here in Florida. They had that song Swamp Woman, Jackie So Bad, those kind of songs. It was pretty cool. I liked Stranger. They had this album that had 2 hands and they had eyeballs inside of them. And that was their best album, their debut album. That one was actually pretty
familiar.
Cool. Yeah, look for it. Once you're an 80s guy, so once you see and you've been around, they're kind of an underground, they didn't really get a lot of fame. While Shooting Star got more fame than them, they were on the lower end of that kind of stuff. They were barely just local. You know what I mean?
Little trivia about Shooting Star. Shooting Star, the first U.S. band to be signed to Virgin Records.
Whoa.
Did you know that?
No, I did
Richard
not.
Branson, Virgin Records.
Very
Shooting
cool.
Star was the very first U.S. band to be signed by Virgin Records. Pretty wild.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Well, Ronnie, I took way too much more of your time than I expected.
Oh my God, Orlando! It's always a pleasure talking to you, man. The pleasure's mine.
Got nothing but love for you, man. I appreciate you giving us so much,
right back at you,
and great insight. We really appreciate it. Keep rocking, my brother. Enjoy your February. Be safe out there. Rest that voice up. I'm sorry that I trashed it here. Ronnie, man, thank you, brother. Keep touring, keep kicking ass, keep making great music. And by the way, the next time I see you, can I get a little visibility 0?
Oh, that runs into that column of songs I want to play that we're gonna force them in somewhere. And
if I remember correctly, you played Camouflage, which is one of my favorite songs in that. I think I've seen you guys play Camouflage, right? Is it Camouflage?
We did Rhythm in the Spirit and Refugee for quite a long time.
Yes. So Camouflage is the other one I like in that album a lot.
Yeah.
So that's
great tunes, and that is the mastery of Zach Rizvi.
That's an excellent. I love jamming that album, dude. Love jamming that album.
Thank you.
Ronnie, I appreciate it, my brother. I can talk hours with you, man. Have a great one.
Same here.
Get some rest. And
thank you so much. Please, kansasband.com.
Yes.
Go to our tour dates and see where we're playing and come out and see this band. You won't be disappointed.
Not at all. You'll be thrilled and you'll be back for more like I am every single time. Ronnie, much love, my brother. You be good out there.
Thank you so much, man. Love to you. Be safe, be healthy, most of all. And I'll see you next time.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.